Today we're going to continue talking about classifying and locating numbers. So real quick, take about 10 seconds or so, turn and talk to the person next to you, and state 3 things to each other that you know about a number line. Go. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I should have everybody's attention back. So a few things you may have noticed was from the other day. You could have said that number lines have positive and negative numbers. Positives are on the right, negatives are on the left. 0 is what splits the numbers. The number line is full of integers, whole numbers, natural numbers, rational numbers. A lot of those things might be some things that y'all may have discussed. So real quick, we have a video about positive and negative numbers. Please pause this video and pull up the video that's embedded in this clip and play it. As soon as that video is over, please resume this one. So now that you've talked about different type or positive and negative numbers, let's really quick review some things we know about this. So we did a lot of this on Wednesday. So where are natural numbers on this number line? Well, the natural numbers are going to be located over here on the right-hand side. Remember, it's all whole numbers, not including 0, so starting with 1. Okay. Question 2, where are the whole numbers? Again, it's still over here on the right-hand side. There again, they're all the whole numbers, no fractions or decimals, but this time it does include 0. And where are the integers? Well, that's the entire number line. So the entire number line has integers on it. However, remember, we're only looking at whole numbers, no fractions and no decimals. Remember from Wednesday, fractions and decimals, those are now what we call rational numbers. Now, where are the opposites? That kind of depends on which side you're looking at. If you're looking at the positive side, well, the opposites then are the negative numbers. If I am looking at the negative side, well, opposites would be the positive numbers. Now, one thing, if you haven't noticed yet, is that if I draw a line through 0 and I were to fold the number line on top of itself, the numbers and its opposites match up perfectly. So what I mean is 2 is 2 jumps away from 0. Well, -2 is also 2 jumps away from 0. So they're the same distance apart. So real quick, just to kind of review again from Wednesday, it says the Venn diagram shows the relationships between whole numbers and integers. Which number would be located in the shaded part? Well, the shaded part is the integers. And remember, integers are positive and negative whole numbers. So which number would be located in the shaded? Well, 1 is a whole number, and it's also an integer, so 1 would appear here and here, technically. 10 would also appear as a whole number and an integer. -8 would appear as an integer, because that's negative, and 0 is a whole number and an integer. Now, yesterday, when you did the Venn diagram, and we talked again about it on Wednesday, you always put the number where it first appears. So 1 first appeared here, 10 appeared here, 0 appeared here, but negative first appeared in the integer spot. So the answer would be C. So talk to a partner really quick. I'm gonna give you about 20 seconds. Discuss where we might use negative numbers, so numbers smaller than 0. Where in the real world may you see negatives? Go. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, I should have all of your attentions back. So some of the things you may have discussed as far as negative numbers, one of the examples I can think of would be a bank account. If you spend more money than what you have, or if you take a loan out, you owe money. If you owe money, that would be negative. Negative numbers could be talking about discounts because you're taking away an amount. Negative numbers if you play golf. If you are shooting right at par, which means if it should take you 3 swings of the golf club to make the ball in the hole, then you're shooting at 0. If you're shooting at 1 swing less, so if it says 3, but you're actually only taking 2 swings, you're 1 under par, which means -1. And you may have come up with dozens more examples. So there's just many reasons why negative numbers may be used. So let's talk about positive and negative. It says Xavier withdraws $31.25 from his bank account. Is that positive or negative? Good, negative. Miss Green deposits $1,546 in their bank account. Positive or negative? Good, positive. It says the temperature rises. Positive or negative? Good, it is negative, or I'm sorry, positive. The temperature falls. Negative, good. Mark climbs up 16 steps. Good, it's positive. Elevator goes down 7 floors. Good, it's negative. Airplane descends 200 meters. Okay, good. Descend means goes down, so therefore it's negative. A diver ascends, so look at the picture. A diver ascends 15 feet. Positive. A football team loses 3 yards. Good, that's negative. A puppy gains 1.5 pounds. Positive, good, gains. The price of stock decreases. Good, that would be negative. The number of smartphone users increase. Positive, good job. A mountain peak reaches 8,900 feet above sea level. Positive. A canyon floor lies 145 feet below sea level. Negative, good. Alicia spends money. Negative. Drew earns money. Positive. So let's review. What are some words that meant positive? You could say, I earn money. I went up. I ascend. I gain. And there are several other words as well that was mentioned. So if you want to take a couple of seconds, jot down any other words that you think might mean positive. All right, words that mean negative. Let's see, withdraw. And on the positive slide, you could have said deposit. Down, descend, lose money, spend money, tons of other words. So if you have a few more you can think of, go ahead and take a second and jot those down as well. All right, so if I look at this number line and I know that 0 is right here in the center, what are some things that you notice and what are some things that you wonder? So take a few minutes take a few seconds, about 10 seconds or so, and talk to your partner about a few things that you notice and a few things that you wonder. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, now that I have your attention back, so a few things that I noticed and a few things that I wondered was I noticed if 0 here is in the center, I noticed that it took 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps to get to 4. And I noticed that it took 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps to get to -4. So that's something that I noticed. And I wondered if I were to divide this number line and cut it in half or fold it in half, if every single number, not just the ones listed, but I wondered if every single number would lay on top of each other. Just like if I were to fold it, the 2 matches up with the -2 and so on. So there are many things that you may have mentioned about what you notice and what you wonder. I want to talk something about absolute value. Now this definition is very important, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is a test question, so please pay attention. The absolute value is the distance or the number of jumps a number is from 0. So if I said, what is the absolute value of 4? Well, it takes 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps. So the absolute value is 4. If I look at -4, well, -4 takes 1, 2, 3 jumps to get to 0. So therefore, the absolute value of -4 is also 4. Now, when we write absolute value, we use these vertical bars right here. So on the previous slide, if I said the absolute value of 4, I would write that as the absolute value of 4, which we said it was 4 jumps away from 0. And if I wanted to say what's the absolute value of -4, well, again, it was also 4 jumps away from 0. So they have the same absolute values. Oh, and we've already answered this next question. It says, what are the absolute values? What do you notice? Well, one thing that I noticed is that the negative had the same absolute value as the positive. I noticed the absolute value of -4 was +4, and the absolute value of 4 was +4, because they are jumps. If you go to PE and coach tells you to jump up and down -4 times, well, you can't do that. You either are jumping or you're not, which is 0. You cannot do something a negative amount of times. So when I'm talking about the number of jumps, it always has to be a positive answer. So in this case, if I said, what is the absolute value of, let's go with 6. You should tell me, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps, 6. And the absolute value of -6, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is also 6. So another notice I see is not only are my answers the same, not only are both answers positive, but the answer itself is the same as the question on both of them. So just remember, absolute value is the distance from 0. So a little review again from Wednesday. If I said, how would I classify this absolute value? Well, the absolute value of -8 is 8. Is 8 a natural number? Yeah, it is. I can count to 8. Is 8 a whole number? Yep, because it's not a fraction or decimal. And remember, natural numbers are positive, whole numbers are positive. Integers is the first time I see positive and negative, and rational is the same way. Is 8 an integer? Yep. Is 8 rational? Yep. So absolute value of -8 is all of those things because it simplifies to just 8. All right, at this time, you should have a homework page. If you don't, pause the video and pass them out. We're going to go through a few examples together, and what we do not finish is homework. So make sure you have it ready to turn in the next day of school. Because what's not done is homework. This will be a grade in the grade book. So absolute value of -7. Well, if I'm at -7 here, it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jumps to get to 0. Absolute value of 5. Well, if I'm at 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. So therefore, what's the absolute value of 7? Good, 7. What is the absolute value of -2? Careful, it is a +2. I can write it with the positive sign or without, but it is a +2 because absolute value again is the number of jumps, and you cannot jump a negative amount of times. Absolute value of 4 is good, 4, and the absolute value of -4 is good, also 4. Number 2 says graph the opposite. Well, we know the opposite of a positive is a negative, and the opposite of a negative is a positive. So if I'm at +6, its opposite would be -6. So make sure you're following along and answering on your paper along with me. And then 2b, -7. The opposite of a negative is good, positive. So we're going to put a dot at +7. Number 3. Now notice number 3 is no longer asking for absolute value and wants the opposite. So remember, absolute value would have this. However, none of these numbers have the absolute value symbol. Therefore, it wants the opposite. So what's the opposite of +10? Good, -10. What's the opposite of -8? +8. Good. Now I can write it as 8 or I can say +8. Either way is okay. It's the opposite of 0. Remember, 0 is not positive or negative. Okay, if I were to fold that number line on top of itself, well, 0 would just fold on top of 0. What's the opposite of -59? Good, +59. Opposite of 212? -212. And the opposite of -25. Good, +25. And remember, I can put the positive sign, but I do not have to. I only have to put a sign when it is negative. And then lastly, and then the rest you're going to do by yourself. It says the opposite of an integer is always negative. true or false. So if I wrote an integer, let's go with 3. The opposite is what? Good, the opposite of 3 is -3. So it says the opposite is always negative. In this case, is my opposite negative? It sure is. So I would automatically start thinking true. However, when it's true false questions, you need to be kind of the devil's advocate, meaning you need to look for the negative. You need to look to try to prove it wrong. So is there a number that would give me a positive answer? So is there a number where the opposite is positive? Good, so the opposite of a negative is always going to be a positive. So if I said, say, +2 or -2, well, its opposite is going to be a +2. So is an opposite always negative? Nope, it is not. It's sometimes, but it is not always. All right, at this point, you're going to spend the rest of class finishing the worksheet or finishing the rest of this paper. Again, what is not completed will be homework. So make sure you complete it and you get it done and turned in.